Who destroyed the USSR? God, man, or nature? Question: could God have destroyed the USSR, if he exists? Answer: if God exists, then he was primarily interested in the collapse of the USSR. This is because the USSR did not recognize God and strictly controlled religious activities. But on the other hand, God, being omnipotent and therefore clairvoyant, would not have allowed the emergence of such a formation that would impose godlessness and atheism. Conclusion: God, if he exists, has nothing to do with the collapse of the USSR. Question: could people have destroyed the USSR? Answer: here it is important to understand what the USSR was. The USSR was a federal state formed as a result of the voluntary compulsory union of 15 Soviet republics and represented a single multinational socialist state. Its political system was based on the power of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, and its economy was based on centralized planning and public ownership. The main distinguishing feature of this country was its ideology aimed at building a developed socialist and then communist society through the dictatorship of the proletariat and the leading role of the Communist Party, which was considered the vanguard of the working masses. And how, in a country ruled by a single party that monitored every person through the all-powerful KGB, could people who could bring down and destroy such a monster have emerged? There were never any such people within the country, nor could there be. Any attempts at rebellion were nipped in the bud. Could there be people outside the USSR capable of doing this? Every capitalist saw the USSR as a threat and wanted it to collapse, but there were never any who were capable of doing so, although attempts were made. Many people think that it was Gorbachev, with the support of the West, who destroyed the Soviet Union. This is complete nonsense. Gorbachev took over a country that was already impossible not to destroy. The USSR began to collapse under Khrushchev, almost collapsed under Brezhnev, and finally and inevitably collapsed under Gorbachev. A country like the USSR could only exist and stay afloat for a certain period of time under a brutal dictatorship, total control and a ruthless regime like Stalin's. Conclusion: people did not deliberately destroy the USSR and had nothing to do with its collapse. Question: could nature itself have destroyed the USSR? I am sure that 99% of people have never even thought about this question. And why? After all, every person is completely and utterly under the power of nature and controlled by nature. Because a person is essentially the same as an animal, only endowed by nature with intellect. Not mind, but intellect. Mind is something that can be acquired, and not everyone can develop this ability in themselves. Nature controls people through innate instincts and reflexes, which, like predefined algorithms, compel them to perform various actions such as eating, mating, giving birth, raising children, and so on. These basic behavioral programs compel people to work, build careers, compete with rivals, start families, and enter into various social relationships with other people. This means that nature controls human society through people's innate programs. And society, through various laws and rules of behavior, controls the members of that society. And the country is formed from a society of people. Like the USSR, for example. Everyone knows that humans evolved naturally from apes in the course of the long evolution of life on Earth. But has anyone ever wondered how a particular society of people, such as a capitalist or socialist one, is formed naturally? Society or social structure is the fruit of human civilization. This means that the level of development of society depends entirely on the level of development of humanity. And humanity consists of individuals and repeats the development of an individual person. Therefore, in order to understand how society develops, we must first understand how an individual person develops. From the moment of birth, a person goes through the following stages of development: infancy, childhood, adolescence, young age, adulthood and old age. Humanity, as a society of people, from the moment of birth, goes through the following stages of development according to Marx: primitive communal system, slave system, feudalism, capitalism, socialism, and communism. This is the natural course of human and social development. Natural means that this process is governed by nature itself and is not subject to the will, i.e., the desires and wishes of individuals and humanity. Just as a person cannot move from childhood to youth, bypassing adolescence, society cannot move from a slave-owning society to capitalism, bypassing feudalism. These are the laws of nature, and no one can violate them. One can try, but it will not work. In principle, a teenager can put on makeup, stick on a mustache and beard, dye their hair and dress in appropriate clothing to pretend to be an adult. But how long will that last? No one has ever been able to deceive nature. Karl Marx himself wrote about this in relation to the evolution of society. But his mistake was that he believed that the prerequisite for the transition to socialism would be the class struggle of the working class against capitalist exploiters. In reality, however, the transition from capitalism to socialism will be achieved according to the dialectical law of the natural transition from quantitative changes to qualitative changes, according to Hegel's teachings. But Lenin, adhering to Marx's erroneous idea that the class struggle of the oppressed against the oppressors was enough for the transition to socialism, carried out effective ideological propaganda work among the working class and the peasantry under the slogan, "Factories and plants for the workers, land for the peasants, peace for the peoples." He launched such an adventure on a human scale. And the Bolsheviks, led by Lenin, in 1917, having carried out a revolution and seized power, decided to leap from feudalism directly to socialism, bypassing capitalism. As a result, this artificial and false pseudo-socialist country called the USSR was formed. Those who understood the absurdity of this venture were simply physically exterminated, and under the cruel dictatorship of an uneducated proletariat intoxicated with power, through the unprecedented exploitation of their own people, who believed in a bright communist future for their children, they even built an economically developed and educated country. The driving force behind the natural development of a particular country is competition between producers so that consumers can buy their products. The USSR had a planned economy controlled by a single center. There was no competition between producers. This was the first reason that led to economic stagnation during the Brezhnev era. The second reason was the increase in the level of education of the population. An educated population will no longer blindly believe in state ideological propaganda and enthusiastically carry out all the decisions of the party and the government. They will gradually begin to think for themselves, compare their country with other countries, and ask questions. The third reason is the weakening of the dictatorial regime, i.e., the democratization of society. No one will willingly overwork themselves when everyone is paid the same salary. The fourth reason is common ownership of the means of production. If it's not mine, then it's no one's. And no one will care about property that belongs to no one. In general, there are many minor reasons, such as formalism, falsification, theft, bribery, etc. But the main reason is the violation of the law of society's natural evolution. You cannot cheat nature. Socialism is inevitable. But only after capitalism. And communism will come. But only after socialism. Such is the law of nature. For more details about the program of evolution that was launched and controls the process of evolution in the universe, visit the channel where videos about the concept of the universe, the program of evolution, are published. Like and subscribe so you don't miss any new videos. Thank you for your attention.